You've spent years climbing a ladder only to realize it's leaning against the wrong building. If you're someone caught between the life you're told to pursue and the life your soul actually craves, then this video is about the sick society that convinced you to climb in the first place, and more importantly, how to reclaim yourself from its grip. By the end of this video, you'll understand 3 essential things: why you feel hollow even when you have what society says you should achieve, how the system has trained your brain to chase false rewards instead of real satisfaction, and most importantly, exactly how to break free from this trap and start living for yourself. Notice something peculiar. The system promises freedom through more consumption, more status, more visible success. People who achieve these things report feeling trapped. They have the promotions, the followers, the credentials, and still, an empty sadness fills their evenings. How can a society obsessed with liberation systematically crush the possibility of actual freedom by controlling you? This is intentional. The sick society doesn't function through obvious oppression anymore. It works through seduction. It works by making you chase false happiness. It tells you that happiness comes from buying things, getting promotions, and earning approval. It convinced you that your worth is measurable in dollars, likes, and titles. The darkest trick is this: it convinced you that these empty goals were your own real desires. Think about how many of your goals aren't really yours. How many ambitions did you adopt because they sounded impressive, because your family expected them, or because society deemed them valuable? Can you remember the last time you wanted something purely because it genuinely moved you, without calculating how it would appear to others? The sick society doesn't forbid you from dreaming. It just ensures your dreams remain colonized by its values. This system is brilliant in one specific way. It makes the prison feel like a playground. Your mind becomes the cage, and the key remains always just out of reach. But here's the question that should terrify and liberate you. What if the system's greatest power isn't what it gives you, but what it convinces you to pursue? What if freedom isn't found by getting more, but by fundamentally changing what you desire? What if the escape route has been available all along, hidden not by external barriers, but by your own conditioned beliefs? If you're ready to understand how to actually break free, not through escape, but through clarity, then subscribe now. The rest of this journey is waiting for you, and it will change how you see everything. To escape something, you must first understand its origins. The sick society didn't emerge overnight or through some hidden conspiracy. It grew slowly from how we decided to measure progress and define human worth. The roots trace back to the post-industrial shift, where societies began measuring progress exclusively through economic growth and material accumulation. Aldous Huxley understood this deeply. In Brave New World, he didn't show us obvious control through chains and surveillance. He showed us something far more dangerous: people so perfectly satisfied with their constraints that they wouldn't dream of escaping. They were given pleasure and all the distractions they desired. In exchange, they surrendered autonomy without realizing the trade had occurred. This is the psychological contract the sick society offers. It whispers, stop thinking about meaning. Stop asking difficult questions. We'll provide pleasure, distraction, and a clear hierarchy of achievement. The human psyche needs belonging, purpose, autonomy, and meaning. For millennia, these were satisfied through community, spiritual practice, meaningful work, and connection to something larger. But the sick society discovered something brilliant. It learned to create fake versions of these needs. It offers fake belonging through social media echo chambers. It offers fake purpose through career advancement measured in salary. It offers fake autonomy through consumer choice, the illusion that selecting between identical products equals freedom. It offers fake meaning through status symbols and identity you perform online. Here's the dangerous part: these counterfeits actually work. They trigger your reward systems. Your brain releases dopamine when you achieve a promotion or purchase something new. Your nervous system doesn't distinguish between authentic satisfaction and manufactured stimulation. So you chase these dopamine hits, believing you're pursuing genuine fulfillment, when you're actually running on a treadmill that accelerates beyond your capacity to keep pace. The philosopher Michel Foucault called this biopower. The way modern systems don't control bodies directly, but shape your thoughts and behaviors from within. You police yourself. You internalize the system's values so deeply that you can't distinguish between what you actually want and what the system conditioned you to want. Your oppression becomes your own project. This conditioning starts early. Schools teach that your value correlates with measurable outputs. Your childhood is structured around external validation rather than internal discovery. As you grow older, the habit becomes normal, making you seek approval before seeking truth. By understanding these roots, you gain something crucial: the ability to distinguish between your authentic desires and the system's manufactured ones. That distinction is where freedom begins. Now that you see how the system works, it's time to face what it's doing to you. The sick society's consequences don't announce themselves loudly. They work silently, accumulating like sediment in your consciousness. You realize you can't remember the last time you did something purely for joy, without measuring its value or calculating how it looked to others. You catch yourself performing a version of yourself rather than being yourself. You've forgotten who you actually are. The system exploits your brain's basic wiring. Once conditioned to pursue certain rewards, your brain creates pathways that reinforce the chase. But here's the trap: achievement in a sick system never delivers what it promises. The promotion comes, and within weeks, the satisfaction fades. You're back to chasing. The system was designed for perpetual dissatisfaction. You keep chasing the next goal, but it keeps moving away. You're never satisfied. You're always looking ahead, never actually living in the moment. By the time you stop and look back, years have passed, and you've barely lived any of them. The system makes suffering normal. Being exhausted becomes something to be proud of. People brag about how little they sleep. You've learned that weakness is comfort and strength is suffering. This becomes your entire life. You stop dreaming and simply obey what the system demands. The person you wanted to become disappears. You become a machine that works and consumes. Years pass this way. The system doesn't need to destroy you. It just needs you to keep running. But once you see this clearly, once you understand what the system is actually doing, you can choose to stop. You can refuse to participate. Breaking free doesn't mean abandoning society or rejecting all its structures. That's a trap. The fantasy of complete escape keeps you paralyzed. Real freedom is different. It's about reclaiming control over your own mind while still living in the world. The first step is this: stop accepting the system's definition of what you should want. The system taught you to justify your desires through external validation. You want something because it impresses others, because it's marketable, because it fits the approved narrative. Reverse this completely. Before pursuing anything, ask yourself, if no one would ever know about this, if it would earn me nothing, if it would impress nobody, would I still pursue this? Your honest answer reveals whether you're chasing your own vision or the system's implanted one. This requires radical honesty. Not the kind that sounds good in therapy, the kind that terrifies you because it demands actual change. Many of your goals won't survive this question. And that is not failure, that is freedom. Each goal that falls away is mental space reclaimed. Second, practice selective withdrawal. Start small. Identify one area where the system controls you and step back. It might be online validation or comparison. Choose one and create a real plan to stop. When you genuinely opt out of one thing, something shifts. The world doesn't collapse. People don't hate you. The consequences you imagine don't happen. This becomes proof that the system's threats are largely bluffs. That proof is oxygen for freedom. Third, rebuild your identity based on what you actually value. The sick society defines you by what you do and what you have. Ask yourself, what do I actually value? What would I do if no one was watching? These questions reconnect you to who you really are, beneath all the conditioning. Historical figures understood this. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself in private because he needed to remember who he was beyond his role as emperor. He didn't run away or reject his position. He simply reclaimed his own mind while still functioning in the world. That's the rebellion. Fourth, find people who are asking the same questions. A sick society isolates you. Your anxiety becomes a private burden, your dissatisfaction feels like personal failure, and your doubts look like weakness. But once you meet others who feel the same, you see the truth. This isn't individual. It's structural, and structural problems can be challenged through real connection. Community becomes your strongest weapon against a system designed to keep you alone. Finally, start small. The system wants you to think transformation requires dramatic sacrifices. Real change is built through small, consistent choices. One moment of choosing authenticity over approval. One conversation where you speak truth instead of performing. One day where you do something because it brings you joy. These moments build up to transform who you are. When you learn how to strategically reclaim your agency, you begin to step outside the machinery's reach. Everything you've understood so far, the system's origins, its psychological mechanics, its consequences, the methods of resistance, all of it points toward a single, transformative realization. And once you truly grasp this, you cannot return to comfortable sleep. The sick society has no actual power over. This is the truth. The system cannot force you to want anything. It cannot make you believe anything. It cannot determine who you become. It can create conditions. It can make certain paths easier and others harder. But the fundamental choice, what you value and what you pursue, that choice remains entirely yours. You've been operating under a false assumption your entire life, that the system has power over you. But power requires your participation. The moment you genuinely withdraw that participation, the system's grip dissolves. Not gradually, completely. You don't need permission or perfect conditions. You already have everything required for freedom. Think about this carefully. The system controls you through one thing: your belief that it has power. Remove that belief, and the control disappears. It has no weapons except fear. Fear only works if you believe the threat is real. The moment you stop believing, the fear loses its grip. This is why people who escape always say the same thing: it was simpler than they thought. The barrier wasn't real. The machinery could be stopped. The only thing keeping them trapped was their own acceptance of what the system told them was possible. You've been taught that freedom comes from having more money, more status, more achievements. But real freedom comes from having less. Stop needing approval. Stop needing to prove yourself. Stop depending on others' validation. When you truly understand this, you stop trying to negotiate with the system. You stop trying to make it fair. You stop waiting for permission to live. You simply leave the game and create your own life. Not loudly or visibly, but completely. The system needs your participation to survive. The moment you genuinely stop participating, not pretending to stop, but actually stopping, something changes. You become invisible to the machinery. Not because you're hiding, because you're no longer feeding the system. You're no longer treating its measurements as real. The final truth: your freedom was never something you had to earn. It was always yours. The system didn't take it from you. You stopped believing you possessed freedom. The moment you remember, everything changes. You are not trapped. You have never been trapped. You are only now understanding what was always true. You were always free.